Welcome to First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, the birthplace of Congregational Humanism. We carry on that tradition of free thought today, dedicated to promoting a free search for truth, meaning, and justice. Our web address is firstunitarian.org. Thank you for joining us.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Lammas Sunday. It's Sunday, August 23rd at First Unitarian Society. My name is Mike Fossich, and I'm the music director here. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning. I'm just going to give a quick note about what's happening music-wise for the morning, and then we'll get on with our service. So, there are three music selections today. The first of which is going to be a piano solo I'm going to play called At an Old Trysting Place. And this is a piece that was written by Edward McDowell, who wrote a series of pieces called Woodland Sketches. There's a really famous piece from that series called To a Wild Rose. And this last week I had the pleasure of being up in Grand Marais, Minnesota, which is like my kind of happy place of just natural wonder up there. And I always my mind goes to these Edward McDowell pieces when I'm up there. So I'm going to play one of those. In the middle, we have our ministerial intern, Sophia, is going to be joining me. She's also a cellist. Hey, what can she do? I don't know. Hey. So we're going to be playing a sweet, famous piece by Holst from the Planets, the chorale from Jupiter, which has actually won a new audience with children thanks to its use in Bluey, this cartoon Bluey, this Australian cartoon. It's a beautiful show, and now whenever my kids hear that, they're like, oh, this is from Bluey, and I'm like, hey, thank you, Bluey, for carrying this song into the next generation. So wonderful, wonderful. And then we're going to end with a selection that's a classic for this congregation called Blessing by Donna Hebert. And that is the music for this morning. We'll have a couple other congregational songs in there, but just a little context about the music. And again, thanks for being here, and we'll begin the music.
Thank you, Mike. Welcome to the First Unitarian Society on this Sunday morning in the lovely, sunny, slightly smoggy Minneapolis, Minnesota. Wherever you are, from wherever you come, you are welcome here. Whomever you love, however you define your family, you are welcome. The identities you hold, how you want to be called, and your pronouns here are respected and welcomed here. Whatever the color of your skin, the language your grandparents spoke, the cultures that move in your being, the abilities and disabilities you hold, we welcome you. I'm glad you're here because it's always good to be together. And we're here together on this magnificent land that is the cultural, spiritual, and indigenous homeland of the Dakota Oyate. We offer gratitude to them and to all of the peoples who have cared for and continue to care for this land where we now make our home. Let us pledge ourselves to work for reconciliation and reparative relationships. This is work we need to commit to no matter what. First Unitarian Society is a member congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, and I am Sophia Spiegel, ministerial intern for just 2-ish more weeks here at FUS. Yeah, I know, it makes me sad. I use she, they pronouns. We have Mike Vasich, who you've already met, our lovely music director, fresh from Grand Marais, as you've heard, back on the keys this Sunday, and you already heard the lush harmonies we so missed this last July. There's more to come this upcoming service, so it's great to have you back, Mike. And now, actually, there's another page. Just kidding. If you smelled bread wafting through the halls this morning, you might be realizing that we're celebrating Lammas this morning. Today's Lammas celebration is going to be led by Phil Duran here, who will be talking about Lammas in the larger narrative, how each of us are cradled in this invisible web of stories we tell or are told about ourselves, our world, and the big cosmos we live in. He's going to explore the interaction between individual and communal identities. He's going to reflect on how each depends on and enriches one another. He's going to speak to the value of weaving our personal journeys and our collective experiences together, taking turns and centering each the individual and the collective so that both of our daily struggles and our triumphs are supported. Throughout the service, he's going to highlight the significance of reflecting on all these themes during Lammas, which is a time that celebrates the first fruits of the harvest, like the berries that are growing right now in the Twin Cities. If you happen to be new with us this morning, please join us for our weekly mini meal in the lower assembly hall after this service. And if you'd like to connect more, stop by the office to sign up to receive our newsletter so that you can be in the know about what's happening here. We are a multi-generational community, and today is another summer Sunday in the park with FUS. Our youngins are going to gather downstairs each Sunday before heading out together for some fun explorations. Youth of all ages are welcome, and you can check with the front office for more information about the schedule and permission slips. And of course, there's always more room for families and kids here in the assembly hall. We welcome your movements and your sounds as part of the spirit of this place. If you so choose, though, childcare is available down the hall to the left as you exit the space. And now, I invite you, wherever you are, to take a moment to welcome the morning and to greet those around you, and to introduce yourselves to those you might not know. You can wave to which camera on the screen? That one over there. To greet those online, say hey, hi. And then there's also a magnificent QR code on the screen if you want to access the order of service. Thank you, Jacob. Welcome, everybody. We're back. And now I'm going to invite you to settle into this time and space. Take a few deep breaths. Let go whatever was happening in your morning or this weekend, if only for a moment. Let go whatever might be happening after this. See if you can put your 2 feet on the ground, if you have them. Take a few deep breaths. Our opening words this morning are titled "The Singularity" by Marie Howe. Do you sometimes want to wake up to the singularity we once were? So compact, nobody needed a bed, or food, or money. For every atom belonging to me as good belongs to you. Remember? There was no nature, no them. No tests to determine if the elephant grieves her calf or if the coral reef feels pain. Trashed oceans don't speak English or Farsi or French. Would that we could wake up to what we were when we were the ocean before that. When the earth was sky and the animal was energy and rock was liquid and stars and we were space and space was not at all. Nothing. Before we came to believe humans were so important, before this awful loneliness, can molecules remember it? What once was, before anything happened? Can our molecules remember? No I, no we, no one, no was, no verb, no noun yet. Only a tiny, tiny, tiny dot brimming with is. All, everything, home. As Jackie comes up to light our chalice, I invite you to read with me the words on the screen. We honor the interdependent web of all existence with reverence for the great web of life, and with humility we acknowledge our place in it. We covenant to protect Earth and all beings from exploitation. We will, I have a little extra bit that's not there. Lovely. We will work to repair harm and damaged relationships. Our chalice flame is lit in our hearts, in this space, and wherever we are gathered. Let's speak our congregational covenant together. Love is the spirit of this place, and service its law. This our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. So this is a familiar tune. We've done it a couple times this summer, so maybe you even have it memorized. But if you would like to use a book, it's number 188 in the gray hymnal. And we will not be doing it as a round, but I do think it's a really good rocking piece. So if you guys feel called to just kind of go back and forth, almost as if you're on a boat or something. We're just going to sing it all together a couple times. That sound good? All right. Take it away, Mike.
Come First Unitarian Society is a congregational humanist community. We are here for each other, our neighbors, and our planet, and one manifestation of that is our caring team. My name is Claire Nyquist, and I'm a member of that team, and we're here for you. There's always both joy and hardship in our midst. If at any time there's something happening in your life that you'd like to share with the care team or with this community, or if you need some support, please call the FUS office or send a note to joysandconcerns@firstunitarian.org. You can also be in touch with us using the contact form on our website. We don't have any joys or concerns today, but after the assembly, you're all invited to stop by the card basket downstairs to send a note to folks you're especially thinking of today. In the following moments of silence, let's reflect on all the joys, losses, griefs, and milestones in our lives, in the lives of those we love, and in the lives of all beings everywhere. Love is at the center of this faith. We take this time that we might connect with our shared humanity, to embrace and celebrate the beautiful range of human diversity, to commit ourselves to showing up for those who need support, and to remember all who are suffering here and around the world. A moment of silence.
The following is adapted from the blog Best Interests by Benjamin Barnett. From the earliest cave paintings to the Greek epics, all the way through to modern-day blockbusters, humans have always been storytellers. We are, in essence, a storytelling species. We tell stories to make sense of our lives. Stories allow us to remove ourselves from the micro-realities of our day-to-day lives and place ourselves and our actions within the context of a greater picture. Every day, we derive meaning and structure from the belief that our actions and decisions are building toward a larger journey. This naturally gives rise to questions such as, what is the narrative arc of my life? And what journey am I on? Narratives in this sense have the potential to give our life structure, instill in us meaning and purpose, and fill us with the hope that when we near the end of our lives, our time on earth will tell a story. If we can't situate our lives within some broader narrative, it is easy for time to feel like it is slipping away unpunctuated. A life without chapters lacks form. If nothing comes to an end, nothing can begin. The moral and political philosopher Alistair MacIntyre has been an essential figure in arguing that humans should be understood as narrative creatures. He says that the unity of a human life is the unity of a narrative quest. It is within this quest that we make sense of our lives, where we search for coherence. He goes beyond this, however, to argue that our own stories are inextricably linked and are only understandable when situated within those of others, saying, I can only answer the question, what am I to do, if I can answer the prior question, of what stories or stories do I find myself a part?
Good morning. My name is Phil Duran, and I'm a member of the Seasonal Celebrations team. Unlike Sophia, you're probably stuck with me for more than 2 weeks. I want to thank Sophia for her introduction, in which she set forth a rather broad description of the turf that we'll cover this morning. I may even touch on some of that. We'll see how it goes. Now, I'm no expert in this, and some of you may say I'm no expert in anything, and I know who you are. But my best guess is that most spiritual traditions recognize some form of a calendar that they follow over the course of a year, or maybe even over the course of many years. Think the Mayans. That is punctuated by events that they recognize in some special fashion. Now, maybe these events feature special music or costumes or the like. But these elements were not usually just random choices made on a whim. They were often chosen because of a deeper, communally understood symbolism relating to some other important idea. In recognizing these events and selecting these symbolic elements, these traditions offered participants opportunities to connect with some story, some legend, some narrative that was greater than themselves, larger than their communities, often much larger. Participants had the chance to truly feel their own personal connection to these stories, to see themselves in them. Now, here at FUS, the most recognizable calendar of events that we celebrate may be that which is contained in the cycle of the seasons. It's a predictable annual cycle, moving from the darkness and quiet of winter through the waxing light of spring and the high sun and abundant growth of summer, through the vibrant decline of fall, and back to winter. In this community, we're at the point now of organizing 6 events over the course of a year to recognize this cycle this story that is so much larger than any of us in this room, and certainly larger than all of us in this room collectively. Now, if you've been connected with FUS for any period of time, you likely know that just some 6 weeks ago, we gathered downstairs to mark the longest day of the year, summer solstice. 6 months from now, we'll be back in this room to mark the shortest day, the winter solstice. The equinoxes we celebrate up here in this room on Sunday mornings, with children's participation and so on. As a congregation, we organize these events because we believe that it is important in the human experience to remind ourselves of our connection with this great cycle, the cycle of the seasons, which is the result of our planet's delicate dance around the sun. Thanks to the Earth's famous 23-degree axial tilt, which means, and I'm not going to do the arm thing, that's only at winter solstice. That's only at winter solstice, you got to come back for that. Which means that the sunshine expands and contracts over the course of a year with its resulting impact on life here on our planet. Each of us is wrapped in the embrace of this cycle. Each of us will live our lives within its scope. And our events here at FUS, like the equinoxes and solstices, remind ourselves in all of our fancy urbanness that we too have a place in nature, on this planet, in the cosmos. This is the story we connect ourselves to through these celebrations. More recently, we've branched out and added another event in February known as Imbolc. Imbolc is one of the 4 points that are referred to as cross-quarter days, the halfway points between the equinoxes and solstices. Imbolc may be more familiarly known as Groundhog's Day, and two of the other cross-quarter days are more familiarly known as May Day, and of course the big one, Halloween. It was about 10 to 12 years ago that we added our very first cross-quarter day, the one that is probably least well known of them all, one that we've come to recognize on the first Sunday of August, known as Lammas. Lammas, as you may recall, is a historic term that is derived from the phrase loaf mass. Much like Christ Mass becomes Christmas, loaf mass, over the course of many years of use, became Lammas. Now, this phrase itself derives from the fact that at this time of the year, at least in certain parts of Europe where many of our ancestors come from, this was the beginning of the harvest season. That may be a somewhat difficult concept to wrap one's mind around today. In an August when it's usually so hot and we're still deep in our summer planning and our summer enjoyment, when we likely think of the harvest as something that happens in the fall, and certainly after Labor Day, not in early August. And that's if we think of harvest at all. Most of us likely shop in stores where whatever food we want is available at any time of the year, regardless of the season. Nevertheless, in these ancient communities, this was the time of year when some of the first crops would be harvested, and prominent among them was wheat that would eventually be milled into flour. And so it was that communities would come together at this time to harvest, to mill, to bake, and share loaves of bread that they would then place at the center of their celebrations. From this came the birth of the loaf mass, in other words, Lammas. Now, I hope that you notice that one sentence contained a number of verbs, including bake and share. You see, when people came together then, or come together now, to mark these or similar occasions, when they're at their most meaningful, these events offer participants a chance to do more than simply show up, sit, watch, listen, then get up and go home, as rewarding as attendance can be. And to be sure, this is exactly the right level of participation for some people. Still, these are events which offer some element of direct participation, where people are invited to take some form of action, like baking and sharing. This action is intended to physically enact the connection between the individual participant and this much greater story that this event celebrates. Typically, this participation is thought of as a ritual. Now, ritual is one of those tricky religious-y words that can sometimes be challenging for us to use here at First Unitarian Society. But nonetheless, whether we use the R word or not, we ourselves do much the same thing here, though of course we do it in our own way. In an article written for the publication The Conversation in December 2022, Michelle Langley, an associate professor of archaeology at Griffith University in Australia, brought an academic lens to this idea. In scientific terms, she wrote, a tradition refers to the passing down of customs and beliefs from one generation to the next. A ritual, on the other hand, is a series of actions performed according to a prescribed order, and which is often embedded in a larger symbolic system, such as religion or philosophy. For example, while celebrating birthdays is a tradition, blowing out the candles on a cake is a ritual. Similarly, while getting married is a tradition, exchanging vows is a ritual. Now, rituals can be created at any time. To become tradition, they only need to be understood and replicated by a wider community. Now, Lammas at FUS began as an exploration of bread in the context of spiritual tradition. Naturally, a somewhat cheeky, possibly unsubtle reference was made at the time to the idea of communion, which, like the word ritual, is one of those things we don't usually think about around here. But we know that even as we speak this morning, people in buildings all over the country, like that big white one right outside the window over here, are being handed pieces of bread on the understanding that this is not just a snack to tide them over to lunch. Rather, this bread has been imbued with a different significance. Whether one is brought up to believe that the bread actually is the body of Jesus or merely represents it, people take part in that ritual with the idea that by eating that piece of bread, they are literally, physically connecting to Jesus and all the importance they attach to him, and beyond this to the broader arc of Christian history and experience. Now, fear not, this is not the direction Lammas 25 is going to take. In fact, if discussing the idea of ritual and communion makes you a little nervous, let's consider this from a different part of the spiritual spectrum. In her 1986 book, Drawing Down the Moon, Witches, Druids, Goddess Worshippers, and Other Pagans in America Today, a book which, by the way, was published by the Beacon Press, the publishing wing of the Unitarian Universalist Association, author Margot Adler writes, "It is important to note that when neo-pagans use the word ritual, they mean something far different from what most people mean. For the majority, rituals are dry, formalized, repetitive experiences. From my own experience of neo-pagan rituals, I have come to feel that they have another purpose: to end, for a time, our sense of human alienation from nature and from each other. Ritual seems to be one method of reintegrating individuals and groups into the cosmos, and to tie in the activities of daily life with their ever-present, often forgotten significance. It allows us to feel the biological connectedness with ancestors who regulated their lives and activities according to seasonal observations. Just as ecological theory explains how we are interrelated with all other forms of life, rituals allow us to recreate that unity in an explosive, non-abstract, gut-level way. Rituals have the power to reset the terms of our universe until we find ourselves suddenly and truly at home. Now, these diverse observations on the idea of ritual show that ritual is not merely the province of one spiritual tradition, but can be a perfectly valid element within a humanist spirituality as well. Now, plainly, at an event commemorating Lammas, a loaf mass involving bread, the actions at the heart of any related ritual will be themselves connected to bread. I mentioned earlier baking and sharing, and right now our dedicated kitchen team is hard at work downstairs baking the delicious bread, which is a tradition here at Lammas. And they will share that with us shortly. For us, the action we will engage in, the ritual if you like, is the good stuff. It's the eating of the bread. So can our participation as a community in this, dare we say it, ritual observation, connect us to the larger story or stories of our collective lives, to, as Margot Adler suggests, reset the terms of our shared universe? Is this even important? Well, in a word, yes. Benjamin Barnett, the author of the Best Interest blog, from whom we heard earlier, makes an important observation about the concept of narrative in our modern culture. He writes, "Discussions surrounding narratives as with much in the modern world, has been individualized. They have become less about finding your place within the world, making sense of the common journey we find ourselves on with others, and have moved toward an individualist vision of making sense of our own lives, adding form only to our personal journeys, separated from those around us. Narratives in the individualist sense are about making sense of your own life, defining a personal journey, with scant consideration for any wider story we may be a part of. But for Barnett, while there is a value to this approach, in that it reinforces the idea of agency in our own lives, he also considers a downside of this more individualized approach. He writes, "Narratives do not just exist on an individual level, and if we view them as such, they have the potential to further detach ourselves from those around us and serve as a tool to further prioritize the individual in our culture. Humans are social animals, and our stories intertwine and are inseparable from those around us. Viewing narratives as individual, regardless of how far we follow that journey, can only get us so far. Viewing our narratives as connected to the individuals and communities around us strengthens our social bonds within a relatively constrained setting. By recognizing the common journeys that we're on, or the fact that our own stories are inextricably linked, we strengthen our connections to one another and have the potential to gain a richer conception of our own identities than is possible using a purely individualistic sense of journey." Well, all of that is fascinating, of course, but seriously, I imagine you're thinking this guy's inviting us to do nothing more significant than just eat some bread. Does this really accomplish anything? Well, again, the answer is yes, but to get there, I want to take what may seem to be a detour into a very different area, but bear with me, it should all make sense, I hope. And for those who may be feeling a little jittery with all this talk of ritual, this detour will involve a lot of science, which is fairly familiar ground for many of us here. Now, if you've endured a few of my talks over the years, you may have discerned that the idea of history tends to pop up with some regularity. I was a history major, and so this can't be helped. Indeed, this is one of the few ways I actually use that degree at all. But as part of my fascination with the past, I have come to have a deep, albeit very amateur, interest in the field of archaeology. I find it amazing to consider how trained archaeologists can find a piece of pottery or some bricks from the foundation of a building and reconstruct broad pictures of the societies in which these random remains were originally created. To try to understand those societies is ultimately the basic point of archaeology. Now, of course, archaeology is also about the examination of human remains as well, with the same goal, to better understand the lives of our forebears. Now, the phrase human remains is usually a euphemism for the harder parts of the human body, like the bones and the teeth, which tend to survive centuries or even millennia under the right conditions, as opposed to the softer parts, such as hair, skin, or internal organs, which typically don't last. For years, archaeologists have been able to look at bones, for instance, and make assessments about the person's sex, possible age, their likely height, and maybe they could see evidence of previous disease or injury. That's certainly a lot, but more recent developments in technology have allowed archaeologists to explore much deeper still. Today, bones and teeth can be coaxed to yield evidence of the location where a person originated from. In an article published in 2016 in the online journal Nature, author Maura Pellegrini and 4 colleagues examined evidence found in teeth belonging to ancient inhabitants of Britain, which allowed them to determine that as a result of considerable migration, there was a broad diversity of genetic and geographic background among the residents. Now, you may find this hard to believe, but the following excerpt was edited for clarity on a Sunday morning. But as these authors explained, oxygen isotopes in human hard tissues are commonly used in archaeological science to study residential changes between childhood and adulthood. For humans, oxygen isotope values in bones and teeth are related to those of local rain and groundwater. A linear correlation also exists between the oxygen isotope value of human skeletal bone phosphate and the precipitation characteristic of the area where the individual lived. This correlation is explained by the fact that the isotopic value of the precipitation falling on a certain area is similar to that of the plant-based food grown by and available to individuals dwelling in that area. If the nutrients are locally sourced, their isotopic composition is ultimately reflected in the bodies of the local residents. Pellegrini continues, because the chemical composition of human tissues is acquired primarily through ingested food and drink, and the isotopic composition of these items is in turn determined by the local climate and environmental conditions, the origins of past populations and individuals can be reconstructed through the chemical analysis of skeletal remains. For the life history of an individual is recorded in the chemistry of his or her body tissues. Now, all of this is a very fancy, sciencey way to say, if a person eats locally grown food, that food will carry with it the signature of the location it was grown in, which will also find its way into the body of the consumer, helping later people identify where that consumer came from. It's certainly reasonable to imagine that this is not just archaeology and that this basic process is still playing out today with you and me. So the upshot of all of this academic speak is really the old adage, you are what you eat. Our molecules remember. So what does all this have to do with Lammas? What if, instead of just enjoying the bread offered after the assembly on its own terms, we imbue that act with a sense of special meaning, and we envisioned that meaning itself becoming a part of us, maybe creating internal clues, perhaps less about where we've been and more about where we hope to go. For those of you who are on site today, you will be invited to join us downstairs to enjoy some of that delicious bread I mentioned earlier, which is likely nearing completion at this very moment. As you do, I invite you to consider that in eating a slice, or an entire loaf, we don't judge. You are not just sating your hunger, but connecting yourself to something bigger, a story in which you have a part. The ingredients for each loaf are the result of inputs like light, soil nutrients, and water. Consuming a slice helps to connect us in however lengthy a chain to the hydrological cycle, the planet, and even to the sun itself, to say nothing of the humans whose labor made it possible. Consider that the act of magically transforming these items into bread at this time of year also connects us to the broader agricultural cycle and to the broader still ongoing march of the seasons. And today's bread selections also have significance. Today we'll enjoy a choice of honey wheat or wild rice breads. You'll hear more later. Each of which themselves can connect us to the long story of our home here in Minnesota. Wild rice, of course, is a traditional staple of the diets of the indigenous people who have lived here for millennia, while wheat is a crop imported and transplanted into Minnesota by white settlers. Wheat's presence in Minnesota may seem like an eternal given, but it is in fact bound up in the greater story of Europeans' arrival in and ultimate conquest of North America. On that theme of conquest, it's worth noting that the first wheat flour mill in Minnesota was constructed at Fort Snelling in 1823. While we certainly encourage you to try both the wheat bread and the wild rice bread, and maybe buy a loaf of each to take home, consider that the fact that they're here together is connected to the deeper histories of colonialism, imperialism, and white supremacy. But perhaps let our consumption of them connect us less to that sad story and more to the expanding narrative of overcoming that legacy by working for social justice and reconciliation, much as we are exhorted to do each week in the recitation of our land acknowledgement statement. Finally, consider that in going downstairs and literally breaking bread together, breaking bread together, you are in even this easy way reaffirming your connection to this community. Now, if you're on the FUS Exchange, and if you're new here, or even if you're not, this is a listserv anyone can join from the FUS website. You may have seen a note earlier this spring by Fred Olson, who sent around links to some videos which are now playing on the screen, which were digitized, I believe, by George Green and added to our YouTube channel. These are videos unearthed in the archives from the very early days of the construction and opening of our building in 1951. As you can see on the screen, coming together, baking, and breaking the proverbial bread has been a long-standing tradition here at FUS. If you don't recognize that space yet, here's a hint. The first room was where today's bread is being prepared, and you've been invited to go down into the second room, this one on the screen right now, downstairs after the assembly to enjoy that bread. This is the lower assembly hall 75 years ago. I'm pretty sure, yep, here we go. Here they are again, having refreshments upstairs this time, in the gallery right outside this door. I'm pretty sure in the background Bruce Nelson is giving tours. Interesting, isn't it, to see all these strangers in our building? And yet here they are, still today. After all, these are the people who built this place. Their story is our story, and I invite you to check out the full videos online. Whether we use the word commonly or not, rituals are about connections. Through inviting us to participate in some physical sense, they are about inviting us into a larger story, likely one that has been unfolding since long before we arrived, and which will likely continue long after we're gone. They're a chance to see ourselves, to feel ourselves directly connected to a larger narrative. Consuming food such as bread is one way to take part and to experience that bond, to internalize it, to have it become a part of us, even if on a level we can't easily see. So, come downstairs today. Take, eat, feel your link to the sun, the planet, and the seasons. Come, savor the wheat and wild rice, and let the complex story of our Minnesota home sink into your bones and leave a trace like all the invisible isotopes they contain. Come and be moved toward making our state a community founded now on justice, where, in the words we heard earlier, we work to repair harm and damaged relationships. Come, join with the others here and those who have gone before us here and those who will follow us here, and know that while we love our building, ultimately this place is what it is because of the people like us who pass through it and keep returning. Come, find yourself suddenly and truly at home. Come, yet again, come. And now I invite you to rise in body and or spirit and join in song number 368 in the Gray Book, Now Let Us Sing. And I believe we will have some leading. Very good, thank you.
So this is a two-parter. For those of you who are familiar, I encourage you to sing as loud as you can to help along the folks that might not be as confident as this. So if you are a self-identified low-voiced person, or maybe you're not and you just want to try out a low voice for fun, Mike is going to be leading that bottom line. He's going to do that first. If you are a self-identified high-voiced person or just want to try singing a high voice, I will be leading the high-voiced part. So we're going to start with Mike's part. So we're going to kick us off.
So, we get Now Let Us Sing. I think you will probably recognize this if you've been here before, but we get to be the basses here, the bass line. So it starts, Now let us sing, 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 now let us sing, 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 now the night, be not afraid, now let us Everyone, watch out for that little break.
You can clap.
Here's the upper voice. So after that little lead in, now let us sing. There's an answer which goes. Sing to the power of the faith within. Sing to the power of the faith within. Lift up your voice. Be not afraid. Sing to the power of the faith within. There's that beat. All right. So let's try it together. melody stays the same, but the word will change just a tiny bit as we go. So here's a little couple bars, and the low voices, we get to take it in here. So let's see here.
Everybody. My name is Lisa Green, and I am the treasurer of your Board of Trustees. I had a great story, but I'm going to save it for another time. So, First Unitarian is a free, independent, and self-governing humanist community. As members and friends of this community, we share the gifts of our time and energy, our creativity, our imagination and vision, our talents, our skills, and, yes, our treasure. Your financial support is an important element in turning our shared vision into reality. As the baskets are passed, you are invited to give generously and joyfully as you are willing and able. You can use the QR code on the screen, which will take you to our online giving form, or you can stop by the office or mail in your donation. And please, feel free to reach out to us with any questions about giving to First Unitarian Society.
I'm just going to set the basket in front because it is way too heavy to hold on to. Hi everyone, I'm Shelley Schreffler. I'm one of the bakers, and invite you to come downstairs after the assembly to enjoy some freshly baked bread. We made two varieties, the traditional honey whole wheat. For any of you who remember St. Martin's Table, it's the honey whole wheat from St. Martin's Table, and then a 3-grain wild rice. We will have slices for you to enjoy. You can have it plain, You can have it with regular butter. You can have it with honey butter. I highly recommend that. Or you can have it with ham salad. And for those of you who would like to take home a loaf, we will have them for sale as well for $7. But please come down and enjoy a slice for free. We ask that you just enjoy yourselves. So thank you.
So in addition to bread sales, First Unitarian Society is up to an unusually high number of programs and activities this summer. And we'd love for you to get involved, including today at 12:15 after our lovely bread and mini meal. And then again, 2 weeks from today, I believe, August 17th, Lily Benowitz is going to be conducting a program series titled Meeting the Moment, which is a set of social justice nourishment labs with assistance from Reverend Jullan, Heather Martins, and myself. Meeting the Moment is a series of gatherings designed to support those deeply engaged in social justice work, as well as those seeking meaningful ways to get involved. Each session is going to offer a space for learning, for creative expression, and authentic connection. We're going to nourish both the spirit and the collective imagination with a unique theme at the heart of each gathering. Participants get to explore social justice through reflection, dialogue, and embodied practices, which, including today, we are going to be making posters for the overpass protest that's going to be happening nearby, FUS, that we're going to walk to together at about 1:15. So if that interests you, come to the upper assembly hall today at 12:15 after your bellies are filled with bread and ham salad. And then come again on August 17th. That'll be our last session. The Songs for Justice Day Camp is officially a go for 5th through 8th graders, but if you are an adult who is hearing that and are saying to yourself, well, that sounds pretty cool, wish I could be involved in that, there is a magical little adult survey form floating around in the Friday update. So if you are an adult who likes singing with community, who is interested in writing music, or exploring a range of protest songs or ways to write protest songs, myself, along with Jacob Mullis, Media Content Coordinator, and Zola Rosenfield, Ethical Education Director, are offering to lead a session on those topics, date to be determined, in the last week of August. So if you are interested, please, I urge you, fill out that interest form, and then we might be in touch with you later. If you didn't receive that interest form, Bethany over at the front office would be really happy to direct you to it. So if you're not here in person, please go out and enjoy the rest of the afternoon, hopefully sharing some time with some friends and just kind of imagining conceptual bread, maybe at your home or maybe you go to a bakery after. For those here in person, lucky you, please join us downstairs shortly for a mini meal of, you heard it, bread and ham salad. Note that lunch is pay what you can, but you can put in a little extra, you can put in nothing at all. It helps to make it possible for us to provide lunch for visitors and those who are unable to contribute today. I think especially for the bread being sold, that's going directly to our seasonal celebrations funding. So please chip in a buck or two. I believe loaves are $7 and the slices are free. Now, as we close, let's thank everybody for their joyful, capable, and fascinating participation. Phil, of course, that lovely reflection we just heard. And Mike for ripping it on the keys. George for making that incredible video. Wow, what a treat to see. Shelley and the bread bakers. Ooh, smells so good. Jacob and the tech crew. Cooks, our helpers, our greeters, Jackie, and so many others. We need each other. We need to remember the light in one another, and sometimes we need to break bread together. So, in that spirit, let's extinguish our chalice. Oh, thank you guys. Appreciate it. That's sweet. Please join Jackie and I in speaking the words on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. All of these we carry in our hearts and in our minds until we are together again. We're going to end with some congregational singing. Again, might be familiar to you. This is Blessing by Donna Herbert. Please rise if you are able and willing. We close this morning with a poem by Alex Klingenberg, whose title is its first line. If you are what you are, if you are what you love, then I am the crackling of a campfire, the smell of rain, my son's infectious laughter, freshly baked bread with butter. I am flirtatious banter, getting to the heart of the thing over cheese fries and milkshakes. I am road trips and mixtapes, the moon in all its phases. I am the deep ring of a cello, and swimming in warm water, I am you, with your sweet eyes and slow language. I am the stars, this coffee, this life right here. Take these words with you and go in peace. Thank you for being here. Eat some bread.